Alright everyone, it's lack of self-awareness time. Now the name in the title of course is not going to surprise anyone when I mention that, but Brian Stelter accidentally admitting to the fascistic nature of the Biden administration, the leftoids and the mainstream media in the United States, the lamestream and all of their attendant craptivists. I'm actually going to read the tweet verbatim here for you, so that you don't have to necessarily, link in the description archived of course, so you can make sure that I'm reading it right. I should read it in a whiny voice like his, I suppose, but you know, I don't take enough soy to hit those notes, I guess. Restricting internet access has become a tried and true method of stifling dissent by authoritarian regimes around the world, alongside government-supported disinformation campaigns and propaganda. It goes on to elaborate further, I think. Now, it's funny, because coming from the Democrats in the United States and from their donor class buddies in big tech, we have constant attacks on internet access fundamentally from these groups. And this is all coming straight from the U.S. Obama, by the way, rescinded the long-standing rule that prevented the U.S. government from using disinfo through the lamestream media. So you do realize, like when you watch CNN or something like that, some of that does come from the Biden administration. We have open evidence of this. Remember the Podesta emails that WikiLeaks dropped? The ones that CNN was desperate, by the way, to hush up? It showed open collusion between MSNBC and other mainstream groups. Numerous groups, including elements of the leftoid legacy, missing link media, between them and the Hillary Clinton camp. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is still in Congress somehow, Donna Brazile and all of these others. It was very, very funny. And Podesta, of course, was very, very sad about that, with his pizza parties being spoken of so frequently in his emails, but now everyone knows that he's a weirdo. Anyway, Brian Stelter, he's a severe authoritarian. He believes totally in censorship, has made this quite clear. Him and people like him constantly gun for big tech, for new tech, are constantly trying to censor people like me that make independent commentary, are constantly leaning on tech firms to do more to spread their own disinformation and propaganda, which is really, this is what his parent network is. It's what all of these main networks are. They are disinfo. They're run by a specific class of people. Every single one of them is run by rich people for rich people, and specifically for neoliberalism. There are a handful of leftoid sites there, but they have the same corporate sponsors that party with the neolibs. It's like a giant nexus. The same is true on so-called right-wing sites, like something like Fox News. Fox News is not a standout. They do the same. The formula is exactly the same. All of these groups, from time to time, support censorship of one form or another. And I'm wondering, does Brian Stelter, is he being ironic when he posts this tweet, or is he genuinely unaware of the fact that he's basically implicating himself as supporting fascism? I would agree with him. He does support fascism. His belief, and the belief of people like him, is that certain political viewpoints, certain political groups and figures should be disallowed from the internet. Not in the sense of you literally can't get on the internet like the ISP cuts you off, but the registrar can cut you off if you have your own website. If you're using any other website, they pressure them to cut you loose. How is that not fundamentally the same as severing someone from the internet? If 99% of the entire user base cannot communicate with you because they don't use any site that you're on, I would say that's a form of censorship, when the App Store is essentially a duopoly, because between Google and Apple, they're it, essentially. There's a duopoly for apps, and if they both kick you off, yeah, you can still develop your app. People can still get it onto their phone, but it's not searchable. Not in the same way that theirs are. We've got Google de-ranking and constantly screwing around with search results. Look on YouTube sometime. Look up verbatim titles of your own videos sometime and see if it's the first result. 9 times out of 10, it's not. 9 times out of 10, some priority content, because their algorithm wants to push that disinfo and propaganda off on you, is before your result. I did this with one of my videos. I can't even remember which one it was. It was fairly recent. I copied out the title, verbatim. I popped it into YouTube search. There were 4 videos by other groups before my own video. Several of which didn't have anything to do with the subject. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, there was a local news thing, and I can't even remember what it was about. It wasn't even political in nature. This is a form of censorship. If your experience on the internet is fundamentally useless, or your experience as a creator or a tech firm or something is basically you've been disappeared, you've been Stalinized, how is that different from a tin horn regime blocking the internet entirely? Like the idea of this is it's like Nigeria blocking Twitter. Well, they prevented people from the free and open internet, says Jack. This is terrible, and they had a big fucking campaign against it as though they were activists. But you yourself, as a person, have blocked people for totally innocuous, totally legal behavior, including U.S. citizens, off of a site that platforms goods and services that are taxpayer funded, by the way, which should be conceived of as unconstitutional. And yet you're rambling about how access to a free and open internet is so important. Stelter is fundamentally the same. He has no problem so he's never going to condemn Alex Jones being disappeared. Now they got banned.video. I mean, they got their own platform, but again, it's not particularly searchable. It's deranked by Google. It's deranked by Bing. No, I mean, I guess you can find it easily on the Yandex or something like that. I mean, when the Russians have a better browser experience than any U.S. tech firm, other than the new tech start like a DuckDuckGo or a Start Page that simply fix part of Google's problem and piggyback off them, when fucking Yandex is better for results, if you're actually looking for independent content, I believe that's a problem. I think that the United States and all firms based in the U.S. should try to go out of their way to be the most libertarian, the most freedom-loving, the most free speech platforming. U.S. tech firms were like that 10 years ago. These firms, essentially, they push the idea of free speech. Third world nations and tin-horn despotic political movements, even in the developed world, leaned on them, and they basically said, fuck off. But then corporate money seeped in and corrupted them, and now it's a big problem. I hope this doesn't end up happening to new tech. I hope it decentralizes far enough that particular impetus never becomes a problem. For Stelter, though, to come out and admit to the problem, which is true, but then not to apply that same basic principle to the United States, to the Biden regime, to Democrats in Congress. AOC, almost right out of the gate. Well, I think that we need to create a list of people that disagree with the election results. I think that there should be a list. Who was it? There was another Democratic activist, or was it a congressperson? I can't remember who it was, who was like, well, people who think that way should never be allowed in polite society and should never be allowed to have a job. Look at Geraldo the other day, Geraldo Rivera. The prince of lolcows, the biggest idiot of the 1980s, was like, well, I don't think that people should be able to, if they're not vaccinated in this case, as opposed to political speech, and anti-vaxxers, the witch hunt term that they have, they shouldn't be able to shop in stores, they shouldn't be able to do anything, as we punish them. I see this all the time. We need to punish this other group of people that has views that are different from our own. How is that any fucking different from the basic principle used by the Nigerian government on Twitter, except that it's a more centralized, more powerful force? What's the difference between a craptivist and a government suppressing people? The craptivist just has to urge other groups that have more power than them to do the censoring. Then they usually end up getting, it's a double-edged sword, then they get fucked by it and they wonder why. I've seen so many progressives have this happen. You'll see someone who's made videos about the need for YouTube to do more about the evil alt-right, and then they get their own YouTube video taken down and they just can't fucking understand. Well, you made your bed, and all the people that would defend you for the most part got banned, so you're going to have to fucking lay in it. That's about all. Peace out.